Welcome into Around the Felt. The Super Bowl is here. I'm excited, as you can tell. I'm Reagan, Loer, your host, here with my co-host, Mr.
Colin, baby. Let's go. It's Super Bowl week. I'm very excited. I just wish it was two different teams, the ones we got to watch. But, hey, we still got to do our jobs, Reagan, and break down this Super Bowl game.
Yes, sir. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Now, we're not, dude. You know what? I hate that you kind of took on the Eagles as your second team. Not even just this playoff run. It almost felt like it for the whole season because you had them in the Super Bowl preseason and your Jets were chalked right away. I'm most excited for the season to be over and your love of the Eagles out of nowhere to be over. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Out of nowhere. I'm the biggest Jalen Hurts fan out there. I will always support him. He's my ride or die.
You are a big supporter of his.
You know, when people were like, is he even a top half quarterback? I called his breakout. I've been behind that guy. I hate the hate he gets. I'll defend him. And when he gets his first Super Bowl, well, guess what? I'll be right there behind him, giving him a tush push up to the number 2 quarterback in the NFL.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. He will not go up to number 2 in the NFL, even with a win. But I digress, Reagan. We got a lot of news that broke today in the NFL. Myles Garrett has requested a trade out of Cleveland. Wow. I mean, we saw the Luka news come out, the Luka Anthony Davis swap, and the NFL said, no, hold my beer. Myles Garrett's going to request a trade, probably the most valuable defensive player in the league, the reigning defensive player of the year, 4 straight seasons of 14 sacks, an absolute beast. And now people are talking about what the Browns could fetch in a deal. Cleveland said they're not interested in trading him, and even after this request, they still have no interest in trading him. But I can't imagine a team with a disgruntled star, their best player. Myles Garrett will probably hold out. He's probably going to try to force their hands, and whoever trades for him is going to have to give him a fat extension, and there is a good amount of money on the books right now for the next 2 years because the Browns had to constantly restructure and kick the can down the road thanks to their king, Deshaun Watson.
I hate it.
What could a trade for Myles Garrett fetch? I mean, not my. Oh my goodness, the pass rusher Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack had 2 seconds. No, I'm sorry, 2 firsts, 2 firsts, and a 5th for him, and a 2nd. So that seems like kind of the comp, but I don't know. Some executives are saying there's no way he catches 3 first-round picks. It's probably a 1 and a 2 or a 1 and 2 threes. I don't know. Other executives are saying they'd easily give up 2 first-round picks. I think it'd be at least 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett, but the Browns have to play ball.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I hate it. We did the mock draft pod the other day. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that, go check it out. Me and G cooked with Commissioner Druckdell. So that was, a good pod, but I had the Browns getting Abdul Carter, and that kind of disappoints me because I loved the thought of a Myles Garrett Abdul Carter pairing. So I hope we don't get robbed of that. I mean, if anything, if they do trade Myles Garrett, I like it even more for them to draft him at 2. I think that basically says, hey, they're going to draft him. Where could he go and what will he fetch? I mean, I would think, if Khalil Mack went for that, Myles Garrett is, a better player than Khalil Mack was. I mean, even though Khalil Mack was obviously a beast, I feel like Myles Garrett's still like, a higher level than him. So, you just really look at all the contenders and stuff, because if you're not a contender, you're not taking on that money. So
yeah, he says he wants to win championships too. He wouldn't be interested in getting moved to a non-contender.
So that that tells me there's a couple different spots. I would think the Browns, obviously, you can rule out the division completely. Because obviously the Ravens kind of do have, and while Kyle Van Noy had a great season, double-digit sacks, I would imagine, he's
They're
not
the trading
answer.
him a division. It doesn't matter.
And that's what I'm saying. So he's not going to any of those teams. And then, Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt, like the other 2 teams, they have a Myles Garrett already. So then
I think Detroit makes sense. I think Chicago makes a lot of sense. I think Washington makes a lot of sense.
Detroit, I would not say makes a lot of sense. They have Aiden Hutchinson. Like, yeah, that's great. But like,
okay.
There's so many. No, I understand, but I don't think they need it. Where I think they need to like really load up that defense. It would be great.
What if I told you the Lions had $56 million in cap space?
No, I understand they can make the money work, but if you're the Browns, are you trading Myles Garrett away for 2 those picks are probably going to be 29, 30, 31, or 32. I mean, you're basically trading for essentially 2 early seconds at that point. So is it really worth it? I don't.
Yeah, but
think
every
so.
team's going to be a contender. That's because every team in the league
Every
is
team's gonna be a
interested in Myles Garrett,
contender.
obviously. But he's
But if
also
you look at
gotta
a lot,
sign off
there's
on
a
it.
difference between contenders. You know what I mean? Like,
Because he's gonna have to sign an extension. He almost has power in where he's gonna go.
no, I understand, but like Washington obviously went on this legendary run. I mean, there's still a world where they're a first round exit next year. They somehow miss out on the playoffs based on their roster construction. Where you look at Detroit, it's like with how stacked that team is, how deep they are. It's like, how are they not right back in the NFC Championship next year?
I mean, yeah, but
That's just
the
my
Commanders. The Commanders just in the NFC Championship game, and they have a star quarterback. They just took who's on a rookie deal for the next 4 years. They have $82 million in cap space. Like they could still fill a lot of holes and improve their roster. They were just there, So then it's like you just got to take the best deal in terms of draft compensation and not try to project where it's going to be. Like,
well, and I one that's interesting too. I'm going to throw it out there, but the way the Rams are constructed, that would be interesting to me because you have like Matt Stafford, the window's closing with that. You have the young defense where you could be like, all right, let's go, another all-in move. We've seen the Rams do it before. They don't care about picks. Or, hey, maybe you keep a couple picks, but you have such a good young defensive line that you can give up one of those young pieces to the Browns and a pick and then go and acquire Myles Garrett to really help push that forward. Because we saw it, this year, that's a playoff team. They won the division. And obviously, they get to the divisional round against Philadelphia, they lose, but maybe if that doesn't turn into a snow game, that goes differently. So that's a name I'm looking out for in the Rams, just because they have enough young assets where you may be able to hold on to the picks to go get them. I don't know, and I haven't looked at the money to see if they can make it work. I did hear today they're going to move on from Cooper Kupp, which I know we'll get into that in a little bit as well. So I would imagine that would free up some money as well.
Yeah, so to your point, I mean, because the Rams piqued my interest too. So we'll move on to the Rams informing Cooper Kupp today that he will be traded. They are going to work with him to find a destination so he can continue to try to win. Kupp disagrees with the decision. He thought he was going to retire a Ram. So you got to feel for the guy there. Obviously won the Super Bowl MVP for them back in 2021 and in the season in which he had the Triple Crown. And I think this is just what they will do financially. They have $40 million cap space right now, Reagan, right? So trading Kupp, the team would have to acquire, I believe it's a little bit over $20 million for next season and then $20 million for 2026. So for an aging player that they clearly have put Puka Nacua into his former role, he's not as important to the offense, and he is like a legend of the franchise, so it sucks. But I understand from a team-building perspective, hey, let's move on from him now. It's probably the best deal we're going to get. He is aging. He's not the same player. We found his replacement in Nacua. Let's try to save another $20 million if we can. Or even if they have to take on some of the money, fine. But with $40 million in cap, you trade Kupp, say you free up 15 this year, right? You eat a little bit of it, whatever. Dude, you're up over 50 million. You can make a move for Myles Garrett. So that does kind of make sense.
Kupp could be the one going to the Browns too. I mean, if you're giving him a young player, one of those young defensive linemen and picks, and the Browns are basically saying we're rebuilding if they trade Myles Garrett. That's the thing. And they could say all they want, but if you get rid of Myles Garrett, that's basically saying we're going in the rebuild mode. It didn't work out with Deshaun Watson. We're going to draft a quarterback, try to get all those big contracts off. We're not going to be good for the next couple of years, but at least, you go and get Cooper Kupp, whatever rookie quarterback they draft potentially, or guy they decide to throw out this year, at least you're helping his development by getting him a Cooper Kupp to pair with a Jerry Jeudy.
Now, a problem with that could be the Browns are $27 million over the cap, so they are in their own troubles. Going back to the point, I know we're going back and forth with the Myles Garrett and the Cooper Kupp, but back to your point on the Browns signifying a rebuild if they do trade Myles Garrett, I agree. I think Abdul Carter makes so much sense at 2 because you have so much money tied up in Watson, and this isn't a generational quarterback draft where I don't think you have to force a quarterback here if you're signaling a rebuild. But I did see insiders in the league saying, if they do trade Garrett, it does signify a rebuild. They're going to go quarterback at 2. The Giants are going to get squeezed out of getting a quarterback. And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of thought it was like, let's take his replacement in Abdul Carter and just build up this roster more. Is kind of the route I was thinking. But if they are going full rebuild, do you take a young quarterback? You have Watson, so you don't have to play him right away.
Yeah, it's interesting because then it's like if you're going full rebuild, like, doesn't a young edge rusher really push the needle? No, but then if you suck, then maybe you're taking a quarterback next year. So it's hard, especially with a generational talent like Carter. So it's a tough pill to swallow. I would think, on the AFC side, taking out the division. I mean, I don't know about Buffalo's money, but that would be a great trade for them. That's a move you can do to really push Kansas City in the AFC, where it's like, what's the guy that can put us over? They'd have to figure out a way to make the money work, but that would be a team I'd love to see try to get Myles Garrett to make that work.
Reagan, do you know who the Browns quarterback was in 2016? I'm trying to think. I'm like, they took Myles Garrett number 1 in the 2017 draft. Trubisky went 2. You had Mahomes go 10.
Was in 2016.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Myles Garrett's rookie year, you're saying?
Yeah, no, who was their quarterback the year before when they picked first overall? I'm just trying to remember.
Deshaun Kaiser, I believe.
Because they took Garrett number 1. They passed on Trubisky.
Deshaun Kaiser?
They passed on Mahomes. They passed on Watson. So I'm thinking, is this a similar situation where let's just take the best player and not take a quarterback? But now I'm second guessing myself. Who was their quarterback in 2016?
No, I'm sorry. They took Deshaun Kaiser the same year. They took Deshaun Kaiser in round 2 of 2017. So his rookie year was the same year as Myles Garrett. So close. I will look it up right now.
Cody Kessler, is that right?
No, there's no way it was Cody Kessler.
Cody Kessler, it sounds familiar. No, he's right. I mean, Cody Kessler. Yeah, it was Cody Kessler. Shut the fuck up. Good job, Drock.
It's just it's crazy.
ChatGPT, baby.
Oh yeah, Josh McCown. A little bit of Josh McCown and RG3 too. They had 3 different guys. That was the year of Hugh Jackson. They won 1 game.
They passed on a quarterback to take the generational pass rusher. Now, Abdul Carter is not the same level of prospect as Garrett. He's in that elite tier, but Garrett, I think, is kind of consensus the number 1 pass rushing prospect to come out in decades, right? So, but they have done it before. Yeah. We've seen the organization. Now, I understand new management. We've seen them.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a completely different GM.
Yeah, it's a completely different regime, but we have seen the franchise pass on a quarterback to take the dominant pass rusher. So I just thought that was interesting. And maybe they do it again, right? When Garrett leaves, they take another pass rusher.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, I love these hypotheticals. I mean, it also could be funny. It also could completely work itself out where they're able to, fix it, and they come to him with a plan of hey, this is our draft strategy. This is what we're planning. And maybe it works out. And, we're looking back at this and we're hey, this hypothetical talk before the Super Bowl that we took 10 minutes on was meaningless.
Or maybe he's no, I will never play another snap for you because I know your quarterback's going to be Deshaun Watson and we're never going to win with this guy. Or that. Back to Cooper Kupp, Reagan. What are some destinations that make sense in your mind? He's going to go to a competitor.
It's got to be a competitor. I would think away.
I think the Commanders might make sense.
Yeah, that's going to be the hot name for a lot of teams because you look at it and you're look, we need to get Jaden Daniels another weapon. You look at the championship game and you're there's no world where a 35-year-old Zach Ertz should be your leading receiver. And I know the Eagles had a good game plan and a good scheme, but you add in another dynamic pass catcher alongside Terry McLaurin and you can alleviate that. So right away, I like that. I don't. New England, I like a lot just because New England has all that money. It would really help Drake May's development. They got a lot of young receivers in that room, so it's hey, we're getting a guy that knows how to play with the best quarterbacks, one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in our generation, in Matthew Stafford. He'll help Drake May develop, and we know for a fact they have over $100 million in cap space, so they can make the money work. So
I agree. That makes sense, but I don't think Cooper Kupp's going to prove a trade to go play for a team that's picking 4th overall. You know what I mean?
I don't know, though, because it's Mike Vrabel, dude. I feel it's a team picking 4th overall with a lot of cap space, a promising young rookie, and a proven head coach that's, really turned around that Tennessee franchise quick. So, I really do think, call me crazy, but I think New England, could be last year's Washington, where they have a good free agency, they have a good draft, and they're really pushing for a wild card in the AFC in year 2 of Drake May.
I could see it. What about the Chargers? He stays in LA, just goes across town. They got $65 million in cap space.
I don't like that
receiver.
I don't like it though, because Ladd's your guy. He's going to play in the slot. Like, do you want to move Cooper Kupp to the outside full time? Like, yeah, he can do it. It'll help, but I don't know. To me, I feel like he wants to go somewhere where he could be the slot. I could see Houston, because we imagine Stephon Diggs is going to leave, because I know he was on the last year of his deal, and I don't think he'll go back. So I could see that they can make the money work.
What about Detroit? Could they do another deal? LA and Detroit? Detroit's got $56 million cap space somehow. I don't know how the hell they have that much money with the roster.
They have so many young guys, bro. Think about it. I mean,
they paid Goff, but they got so many dudes on.
Think
rookie
about
deals.
All the you got Gibbs, you got Campbell, you got the most secondary. Is Hutchinson even Hutchinson? No, Hutchinson is still in his rookie deal as well.
Yeah.
But
Kupp kind of makes sense in that time frame where if you have him for 2 years, then you let him go, and that's kind of when you got to start paying your stars that are on the rookie deals. I think the time frame kind of makes sense there.
Yeah. No,
maybe
it does.
Pittsburgh, maybe? I think Pittsburgh could be a destination. Dallas is certainly a destination.
Dallas would be
somehow
cool.
Dallas is $2 million over the cap. It's crazy. They got to pay. They got to pay Parsons.
Cap, to me, that doesn't matter because these guys are so good with the cap. Like, they'll make it work. Like, they always do. Like, if a contender really wants a guy, like, they'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
So that doesn't scare me that they're $2 million over. Like, if Cooper Kupp was like, I want to be a Dallas Cowboy, like, you think Dak Prescott and like Jerry Jones and all those guys are like, nah, we don't want him. Like, they'll figure out a way to make it work.
I think Dallas make a lot of sense, man. I think that's a good one too. I mean, there's a lot of potential, but we'll see, man. The Rams tell Cooper Kupp, we're done with you. Thank you for your service. So it's the world that these athletes live in. Our final piece of news. We don't really talk about coordinators very often, but this one's just pretty significant. Chip Kelly is becoming the offensive coordinator for the Raiders under Pete Carroll. Back in the NFL, just won a title as the OC at Ohio State. I like it. If Chip makes some noise with that offense and they start putting up some points, and whoever they have as their quarterback next year makes significant strides, maybe Chip can get another chance as a head coach. Maybe he's waiting in the wings for when Pete Carroll's done in a couple years, potentially. But I think this is a pretty good hire for the Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you putting together some of the best Pac-12 minds, Mr. Oregon, Mr. USC. So you love to see it. I mean, I still think that when Pete Carroll's all said and done, it's a 3-year deal. Like, he's going to have somebody in the wings that he's going to set up for success. This is a team I don't expect to succeed year one. I think it's going to be a rough year next year. They're not really in a position to draft a quarterback. So I think year one's really about setting the foundation, building a culture there. And then year two, whether it's, they get their quarterback or draft someone, I think that's when we'll see more changes. But yeah, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, some guys, aren't head coach material. Obviously, he, had a little bit of success in Philadelphia, and then it was a complete wash in San Francisco, like record fashion bad. Yeah. But, that's also going back like 10 years ago. I mean, he hasn't really had an opportunity in the NFL after, that stint with the Niners. He was kind of blackballed. So it'll be interesting. I shouldn't say blackballed. Like, not a lot of teams would be like, yeah, let's go hire a guy that just went 2-14. So I don't blame him for that.
It didn't really end very well in Philadelphia either. So
no.
But hey, he's been in the college ranks for a while now. It's also a nice little throwback to the old school Pac-12 days in that division with Pete Carroll, USC, at Oregon, and Jim Harbaugh at Stanford. So divisions, I tell you what, that's a stacked division in terms of coaching. I think it's the best coached division in football. I don't think you can argue that. Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh. How do you beat that?
Yeah, based off of history, yeah. Probably. I mean, because, Zach Taylor and Stefanski.
I know you'd love to argue it with me right now. You're looking for it. You can't find it.
Yeah, I mean, the North is just not proven enough yet. Yeah.
You can't argue it.
I don't think you can.
Can't argue it.
Based off their history. I mean, yeah.
All right, that wraps up our news. Let's get Drockdale in here for some questions.
What up, boys? Super Bowl week.
Yeah.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Drock spearheading his own pod this week. Well, my boys will be on there, but I'll be the one taking charge and going with the intro. He's pumped for it. I cannot wait. Now wait.
What boys are we getting? Who we getting?
Well, right now we just have Pop-Tart. Clint's being annoying, but we know he's a degenerate gambler. I may have like Chad hop on. Yeah, I don't give a shit. He's not hopping on my pod, nor is he getting a crew next time. I'm gonna expose his ass live on the pod.
Yeah, he probably won't hear this, but
I don't know. I need a couple more other. Maybe I'll have. I'm thinking to Julian. He's a big Commanders guy, but he's a pretty aggressive gambler. We'll see. It's gonna be a good surprise. So. Alrighty, let's hop into these questions. First guy on the list is Mr. Caleb.
Nice.
Yo.
He goes,
Caleb.
Hear me out. Kicker is a Super Bowl MVP. Is it worth a sprinkle? Harrison Butker is plus 10,000 and Jake Elliott is plus 50,000 on Hard Rock. How many field goals would they have to make?
How many field goals would they have to make to win Super Bowl MVP? I think the floor is 5.
More.
Yeah, I mean,
if you hit 5 field goals, if you win the Super Bowl, let's say they score 1 touchdown, right? If you win the Super Bowl 22-17, let's call it, right? You make 5 field goals and you make the game winner as time expires from over 50. I could see it.
5, yeah.
But you got to hit the game winner,
and
you got to hit a ton. And it's got to be like 1 touchdown was scored. If there's 3 touchdowns scored, it's going to the fucking quarterback, unless, a receiver or a running back had a crazy game.
The game winner's like 50 plus, too.
It's got to be like times expired, fucking Butker out from 60 yards. Maybe if it's 4th field goal, right? Game win from 60. That's the only way I could see it.
I actually don't know if there's a path for Butker at all. I think Elliott, would be the only one I could see out of the 2 kickers, just because I think when it comes to the MVP, narrative plays a big factor. And with all Butker's 2, I guess, politically viewed negatively as of like this year with all those comments, which we're not going to take a deeper dive into that, but like he left a bad taste in some people's mouths. So they're gonna be like, yeah, we can't do that. So they'll figure out a way to give it to someone else. And it's also like Patrick Mahomes and Kelce, like they're just too big of megastars. Where if there's a world where Saquon gets like kind of bottled up, doesn't have a crazy game, and it's like, there's so many contributing factors on the Eagles, but like Jake Elliott was struggling all playoff run, and then he's just and all season really, and he just comes in and he's money and hits a couple 50-yarders. Maybe hits a game winner. It's a defensive battle where, like, maybe the Eagles only score 1 or 2 touchdowns, but it's like, look, Jake Elliott hit some big kicks, made his extra points and really stepped up and showed, like, hey, why this guy is one of the best kickers in playoff history. Because until that Commanders game, he hadn't missed any field goals in the playoffs. He was like 20-20. So he had the record for the most amount of makes without a miss. So I would say only Jake Elliott I would sprinkle, but not much. Maybe like $100. Okay, no, I'm kidding. Not that much. Like a little, like $5.
All right. He goes, I want to talk about the Super Bowl logo color theory one more time. It cashed again this year. Can it really be a coincidence?
Yeah, dude, it's a coincidence. Come on. And, I know it's a fun storyline, but these guys are going out there and it's their livelihood. It's their health. It's how they support their families. It's just a coincidence. It's a funny coincidence. I like it, but no, the refs are not rigging it for the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl, to get the Super Bowl color logo theory to be validated.
Makes you think, though, right? I mean, it definitely makes you think. It tickles the certain part of your brain where you're like, what's going on? Once, all right, twice, all right, but 3 times? Shame on me if I don't at least consider it. No, it's just a weird coincidence. But, just trying to give a different perspective. I don't know. It's funny. I mean, but I think it was green last year, brother. And, our quarterback fucking ruptured his Achilles. So I don't know. So I don't know. I just think it works out well. It's like, hey, we make it red. Like, we're probably going to be right. Also, you would think, like, with the color scheme and stuff, I'd imagine out of all the teams, red's probably the most common color, right? I mean, you think,
yeah,
because
it could have been red, and it's like, oh, dude, the Cardinals made it this year. Everyone knew it, or the Commanders, and it's like,
you can count just about every I'd say about half the teams have red as one of their colors. Like if the Giants made it, they'd try to be like red. The Bills made it, they'd be like red, even though like that's not their prominent color. They'd still try to call that red.
All right, let's hop to Austin Rocco Nowinski. Is that his middle name?
Yeah, Rocco.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, Rocco. All right, who will be the Super Bowl MVP?
So we talked about it earlier, Jake Elliott.
No,
Well,
it's like
odds.
If I'm being honest, to me, it's going to be Jalen Hurts. If you want one with crazier odds, AJ Brown. But if I'm just going strict off of, gut feeling, I'm going Jalen Hurts. This man is going to step up big. I respect Steve Spagnuolo too much to not think that he's going to figure out a way to at least limit Saquon. He's too good. And he's proven it in the playoffs. Like, he brings his defense to another level. So I think this game is going to come down to Jalen Hurts having to be Superman, just like 2 years ago where he was, and he slipped up once. But this time he's not. He's going to get it done. They're going to win the Super Bowl. He's going to pass for over 300 yards, probably add, 2 or 3 passing touchdowns, maybe a tush push or 2, and by the end of it, he's got almost 400 all-purpose yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns. So give me Jalen Hurts to win the MVP. I don't know what the odds are on that, but I feel like it's
I don't know why DraftKings doesn't
plus
have.
360.
You got on.
really isn't bad to get a starting quarterback in the Super Bowl at that.
Saquon's the favorite for the Eagles at plus 275.
Which makes sense.
Then after Hurts, the next guy in line for both teams is Travis Kelce at plus 1,800. The books are telling you Mahomes is the favorite at plus 105. The next guy is Kelce at plus 1,800. It's not even worth taking Mahomes MVP because the Chiefs are minus 125 on the money line. Like, I don't think it's worth laying that little bit of juice to try to get cute with it by taking Mahomes, because it'd be a crazy defensive play that seals the game and that guy gets the MVP, or it's hard because the second guy is Kelce, the third guy is Xavier Worthy, and it's like, well, if those two guys are having monster games, it's because of Mahomes as well, right? So it's like, I think the Chiefs are going to win. So, yeah, Mahomes is your guy, I guess, to get MVP. But if I had to go different routes, something more juicy, I'll go Chris Jones at plus 6,000. If Chris Jones has multiple sacks, if he forces a turnover in the fourth quarter with a monster strip sack and really takes over a game against what is considered the best offensive line in football, that's a path that I would take instead of going on Kelce at plus 1,800 or Xavier Worthy at plus 2,500.
You know what's funny, and this is a little off topic, but it's still Chiefs related. I heard it, or I saw it on social media a little bit, but Patrick Mahomes being so like getting the Chiefs into the playoffs and deep runs every year is literally going to have like all these random defensive players like over the years being in like the top records for like playoff sacks, playoff tackles. Like George Karlaftis, I know has had a couple sacks already. Like he's going to be up there. Like, I mean, obviously Chris Jones is a beast, but a lot of these different like linebackers are going to be like wouldn't even be that good. Like Willie Gay, I know he was not on the team anymore, but he's obviously, was their leading tackler a couple years ago. So a lot of these Kansas City guys that they've rotated in and out are going to end up being like super high up on playoff records for defensive stats.
George Karlaftis plus 10,000 for MVP.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Nick Bolton plus 25,000. He's had some big plays in his Super Bowl career. Trent McDuffie plus 25,000.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last time I remember, a player that was defensive winning was Malcolm Smith. The one year they won with the Seahawks. He was their linebacker.
That was the most recent. Before that, it had to be Von Miller. Was the only other one that I could think of.
And I can imagine Malcolm Smith probably had some crazy odds on that. Von Miller probably wasn't that crazy because at the time he was like the decoy or whatever.
Yeah, he was a decoy, and he had a strip sack, and he dominated that game. That's what you need. You need to force turnovers in the defensive side of the ball if you're going to win this thing.
Yeah.
Brings up a good point, dude. Like, Colin, what you said about if you just want to take Patrick Mahomes, it's not even worth it. Just take the Chiefs, basically, at that money line.
Just take the Chiefs, man.
It actually makes so much sense to do that.
Which makes me think you won't win it because of that. Because I feel like a lot of people are going to take it and getting greedy.
People are like, well, what if Mahomes throws for 500 yards and they lose and he could still win it? It's like,
Next question Rocco's got for us. What does each team need to do to win the Super Bowl? Score the most amount of points.
Yeah. All right. What do we got next?
All right.
I would say the Eagles, like what you have to do is, you need to run the ball down Kansas City's throat with Saquon Barkley. He got you this far. He had this incredible year where he almost broke Eric Dickerson's record. So you use that, you limit the clock, you play good defense, you keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. You figure out a way to stop his legs. So you got to get those linebackers. Zach Bond turned him in all-pro. You got to use him as a spy. I know Nakobe Dean is out still. So these different guys are going to be rotating in and stuff. You just got to use them as spies. You can't let Mahomes make these extra plays with his legs. I mean, last week we saw what he did to Buffalo. I mean, it was like 11 carries for like 40-something yards, but just extending plays. You got to keep him in the pocket. Can't let him make these extra throws. You got to make him uncomfortable. I know, obviously, there's a little bit of asterisks on that one Super Bowl loss because, Kansas City came in with one of their 5 starting linemen, but the Buccaneers were able to make him uncomfortable, bring pressure all game, and he never could get anything going. So you just got to keep him contained in the pocket. Don't give him time to pick you apart, and that's how you win.
So I'll go the Chiefs side because I know I'm taking the Chiefs. You got the Eagles. When I was diving into this game, one thing that really stood out to me was the Chiefs are 26th in the league on third down defense. And I think this game is going to come down to teams taking risks, but who's going to capitalize on those opportunities. I think there's going to be a lot of 4th and shorts that they're going for. And for the Chiefs, they can't let it get to 3rd or 4th and 1 or 2 because the Eagles will push and they're going to get it. Right. And for a team that struggled on how as great as their defense was this year, that was their flaw. They struggled to get up the field on third downs. You got to make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. It can't be the Saquon Barkley show. It can't be read option all day. You got to stop the run first, make Jalen Hurts throw the ball, and you got to get off the field on third downs. Offensively, I mean, you get Patrick Mahomes. Just let Mahomes do his thing, right? Like Mahomes is not going to turn the ball over. You know that. They're not going to die in the hill of trying to run the ball with Kareem Hunt and Pacheco. They're just going to do it enough to keep the Eagles honest, I think. But Mahomes has the weapons at his disposal. Let him control the game. But for me, it's the Chiefs' defense which is going to win them the game. They need to get off the field on third downs, and they can't let Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley beat them with their legs.
All right, last question from Rocco. Which players will make the biggest impact on each team offensively and defensively?
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little different here because, the easy answer is to say Saquon. But I would say for me on the Eagles, it's Dallas Goedert on the offense. We've seen what he's been able to do after the catch, what he did to the Commanders and what he's been doing this playoff run where he's become such a weapon that was missed throughout the season because of different injuries. So I would say Hayes, a nice piece. You can say A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, but him with those tight end screens and, getting loose, really exposing some of those linebackers and safeties is such a mismatch. For the Eagles on the defensive side of the ball, I would say, the linebacker core, Zach Bond, like you're an all-pro. We need you to step up here, show why you were first-team all-pro, why you had this incredible season. Step up in the run game, don't let it go in. And, also, like, I'm not sure who the Eagles are planning on matching up with Kelce. I wouldn't be shocked if they've double teamed, bracketed, throwing a bunch of different guys at him. But I would say, the X factor's got to be taking him out of the game completely and letting Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, all those guys beat you, not Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I'm going to go. This might be a bit of a cop-out answer. I don't want to just pick one pass rusher for the Eagles, but I think their pass rush in general is the key factor here because 2 years ago, they only lost by 3 points, but a big thing was their pass rushers slipping on the grass. And they couldn't get going. They couldn't get after Mahomes, and they hung 38 points on him, right? So I think, as you mentioned earlier, Reagan, the key to beating Mahomes is you got to get after him. You got to get him outside the pocket where he still can kill you outside the pocket for sure. But if you let him sit in the pocket all day, he's going to pick you apart and you have no chance of winning. So it's got to be their pass rushing unit getting after him.
I don't even know if that's. I'd rather keep him in the pocket because he almost seems more dangerous outside of the pocket when he's moving and making plays where he's just keeping the play alive. And then Kelce gets in that, scramble drill where we've seen where they're just like in sync. And it's like, he knows, like, I just got to get open. Like, that's where they're dangerous. So I would love to, like, you can't let him get on the move either. I don't know if there's a good way to attack it.
He's the best. He's the best, right? So he's great at everything, right? But I'm saying you can't let him sit back there for 3-4 seconds because you're done.
Yeah.
And the Eagles, like, they have the number one pass defense in football, right? So if they can just get to Mahomes, their guys are going to have the receivers, the Kansas City receivers locked down. But, you know, if you give Mahomes too much time, yeah, then he'll start to maneuver around and improvise, right? I'm not saying you want him to improvise. I'm saying you need to crash the pocket. You need to create havoc. Offensively for Philadelphia, you want to say something on that? You want to counter?
No. I was gonna do. When you're done, I was gonna say let's do Kansas City then.
Okay, offensively for Philadelphia, yeah, I mean, Barkley's the engine that's going to run this offense. I think the Eagles are in trouble if it's all on Jalen Hurts to beat him as a passer because his Chiefs secondary is no slouch, and they've been here, they've done it. It's got to be Barkley, man. But, you know, you took my thunder with Goddard. I've been calling out Goddard week in and week out as a prop that I like because he's been so good. He's fully healthy now, and he's been their leading receiver for a couple games here now. I mean, I know A.J. Brown was last week, but, you know, that's a thing, man.
Well, why don't you say the guards? Why don't you say the guards against Chris Jones?
I mean, certainly. You know, you're not really worried about the Eagles' offensive line, though, against anybody. You know what I mean? So, it wouldn't even be their run game with the offensive lineman. It would be their pass protection against Chris Jones, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if you do, Spags is going to try to turn Jalen Hurts into a passer, and if you can pressure him, that's when he really struggles. So,
yeah, and obviously the Eagles have some injuries on the interior right now.
But Jurgens still got in with that back injury 2 weeks ago. I'm assuming Jurgens would be good.
Yeah, and Mekhi Becton too, another one I'm not fully sold on him. He may have had a resurgence at the guard, but I'm still not sold on that. So I would say the interior versus Chris Jones is another key X factor as well.
And what do you think for Kansas City?
So Kansas City, I would say their offensive X factor, the way they can really win is actually the run game. You can't let the Eagles make you a one-trick pony. You need to establish the run game as well. Obviously you can sit there and let Patrick Mahomes win the game, but if they know you're dropping back every time, you need to open up some stuff in the play action. You can't let them just double Travis Kelce all game. So whether that's Kareem Hunt, who's been the hot hand, or getting Pacheco going, who's been, a huge catalyst for your playoff success over the past 2 years. And honestly, most of Kansas City's Super Bowls have had a running back in the games go off and dominate. I remember Damian Williams, Jerick McKinnon. They've always had a running back that's been a key factor in their Super Bowl wins. So if they're just having none of those running backs that can get going, it's going to be tough to just ask Mahomes to do it the whole entire game and Travis Kelce. So I think they need to establish that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I would say, similar sentiment, because you can't stop Saquon. So I would say, keeping Jalen Hurts, from leaving the pocket and using his legs. And I don't mean to throw the ball, but to scramble. Just limiting him, not letting him beat you, making him be a pocket passer. Make him beat you with his arm. Don't let him beat you with his legs that he's getting outside, getting these long runs like that long touchdown run we saw against the Rams to start the game. Catch the wheel. So it'd be, taking away Jalen Hurts' legs, making him use his arm.
I like that. Offensively for Kansas City, I do agree with you. I think one of the running backs is going to have to step up, and not even particularly just in the run game, but they like to get cute around the goal line with some trick plays, and they like to set up a lot of running back screens. I think those can be really beneficial for them to move the chains when they need it. So I agree with you. The running backs will have to be involved in some capacity. I will go a different route, though, and go Xavier Worthy. You mentioned you could see the Eagles bracketing Travis Kelce, and I don't think, how could that not be your game plan, right? We've seen Mahomes and Kelce dominate throughout the playoffs for so long now, where it's I think they're probably going to go that route, try to bracket him. And it's who makes sense? It's I'm not going to try to go with DeAndre Hopkins when he's going up against Quinyon Mitchell, or, I doubt they're going to shadow, but it's Hollywood Brown just came back and he's been a little inconsistent, right? This Eagles secondary, they're the number one pass defense in football this year, right? And the number one total defense. So I look at the Philadelphia secondary, and I think they outmatch Kansas City's receivers, but Xavier Worthy is a guy that they haven't been using necessarily down the field in the intermediate. but they've been using him more in like a gadget role, and he's really exploded with that role. He's getting the ball around the line of scrimmage a lot. It's very similar to how they used Rashee Rice before he got hurt. So I think Xavier Worthy, they're going to manufacture him touches, and with his speed, like he could change the game. I think he's the most important piece to that offense because I do think they're going to really try to take away Travis Kelce. Defensively, I mean, I just said sprinkle on Chris Jones at plus 6,000. He's the X factor because if Chris Jones can't put the pocket in the interior and get in Jalen Hurts' face, if he can't work off those double teams and help contain Barkley, it's going to be a long day for this Chiefs offense. This offensive line is way too good for Chris Jones to be absent. He has to take over this game in some capacity. He is the X factor, and there's no doubt about it in my mind. Like, yeah, it'd be nice if Karlaftis got going, but, you know, if he's lined up over Lane Johnson, you're not going to win that battle, right? It's got to be in the interior.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. Chris Jones is going to be the biggest X factor for that defense. That's what I was saying for the Eagles. Like, it comes down to the guards in the interior. Like that's a really in the trenches. That's something I'm looking forward to. Is can these very good guards hold up against probably the best interior lineman in football?
Yeah, I talked myself into sprinkling on Chris Jones at plus 6,000. I like it. I think it's worth a.
Let's go. Meet him at the cash register, baby.
I think it's worth the Chipotle bowl.
All right, Drock's got 2 questions for you guys. I gotta ask these questions because we do have some lady felters out there. Over under 5.5 times Taylor Swift is shown on TV.
We definitely don't have lady felters. We're ugly as shit. So.
I'm actually going to go under.
What do you mean?
Over.
We got P for G, yo. What are you talking about?
P for G, that's true.
And
that's
also,
true.
I'm making this line. This is not what I saw on BR betting. This is solely Drock's just line. 5.5 is a lot.
Yep. P for G has been very expensive. Those crew necks we've been trying to sell. All that money's been going to pay for that.
If Kelce scores, that's guaranteed 3 times. So.
Yeah, and if the Chiefs win, it's like, is it the conclusion of the game or is it the whole festivities? Because the Chiefs win, I mean, I want to go under, like during the game, 5.5, but if it's full, the entire show, I can't go under.
No, if it's just the game,
When the clock hits 0,
over.
I'll go under. I think it's 4. I think 4 is the number.
I think, are you counting commercials now, right? Just like on the live broadcast?
No,
right?
just the live broadcast.
I think it'll be closer to 10, honestly, because they're going to do
10?
Dude, because she's from Philadelphia, so they're going to probably talk about that and keep cutting to her about her Philadelphia ties. Loser has to go to a Taylor Swift concert
and buy front row tickets.
I would say over just because they're going to play the whole Philadelphia thing, the whole bracelet thing, one of her songs, they're going to be like, they're just going to have all these stupid ass storylines. And then anytime he makes a big play, it's going to cut to the box of her and like Jackson Mahomes going ape shit. So yeah. How many times do we see him?
All right. Last question. Sticking with Taylor Swift. If the Chiefs win and Kelce wins MVP, do you think that he asks Taylor Swift? Do you think they get engaged?
I hope so, because no matter, I hope that happens so bad, dude. That would be the only reason I'd want the Chiefs to win it, because I want that to happen so bad, because you're gonna piss off everybody. Nobody is gonna be happy. So from an outsider perspective, it's gonna be hilarious because you're gonna have all the Swiftie fangirls being like, "He ruined Taylor's moment," blah 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 blah, and then all the NFL fans are gonna be like, "What the hell? Like, we should be seeing all the Chiefs celebrating, not." Cut to Mr. Pfizer and Mrs. Swift just on the camera taking over the broadcast completely. So I think no matter what, that pisses off the masses. So from an outsider perspective, I think that's hilarious because there's just going to be so many mad people on Twitter. Like, how many people would actually be happy about that? Like, not many. So I think that's hilarious.
I have a question for the crew right here. The halftime show, Kendrick Lamar, does he sing Not Like Us? And if he does, I don't think if he does, I think he has to. He just won a Grammy on it.
They're not like us.
So the Super Bowl kids are watching. I don't know if he's going to be like certified lover boy, certified pedophile, like in the middle of the Super Bowl,
That's great.
Sorry.
That was awesome.
I think he does sing it, but he cuts the pedophile out. And they don't play that along with all the other cuss words.
Yeah, I think they cut out the pedophile part. Yeah, I'll probably be like the chorus. He's got to do it, right? He's got to do it. It's probably like minus 1,000 that song's going to play.
Yeah. I mean, we'll take a deeper dive when we get into the props episode. I'm not really the biggest music guy. I would hope he would do it. And I think it's, I think it's kind of bullshit if you're trying to like, tell an artist what he can and can't sing. So, I don't think we should tell him what he can and can't say. It's America, free speech, baby. If he wants to say certified pedophile, I guess that's what he's gonna say. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm a Drizzy Drake fan, so I'm not the biggest fan of it. But all right, we'll talk about it more on Thursday. Let's move on. I mean, we let's talk about the game, Reagan. I mean, we've been talking about the game for the last 20 minutes, so you heard all of our thoughts on what we think are the keys for each team winning. You all know Reagan's on Philadelphia. I'm on Kansas City. If you'd like to provide anything further why you think the Eagles are going to win, besides the fact that you had them in the Super Bowl before the season started, I'm all ears.
No, that pretty much sums it up. I appreciate it. So we can go to Kansas City now. No, but all jokes aside, I mean, like you said, obviously I had him in the Super Bowl to start the year, so of course I'm going to be riding it. Obviously, I'm an agent of chaos. I want to see all the Giants fans cry. For those that maybe don't know us personally, we are located in the New York, New Jersey area. So I align with the Jets. He aligns with the Giants. So I love to see the pain. But just from a Philly perspective, man, I mean, this team has been so good. They're so well-rounded. I would say it's safe to say on paper they're the better team. It just comes down to the other team has Patrick Mahomes. But I'm really impressed with what Vic Fangio's done with that defense. I think he's going to have a good game plan. I know he hasn't had a ton of success against Mahomes, and he's lit him up a lot. But I think at this point, this is one of the more talented defenses he's had. He's going to have a game plan to hopefully limit him. And on the offensive side, like, they can try. And, I will give Spagnuolo his credit. Like, I'm sure he will have a good game plan. But just with how good Saquon's been this year, like, they may bottle him up, but he's like Derrick Henry-esque, where it doesn't matter how many times you hit him in the backfield and how many negative runs he has. Eventually, he will break one off, and it's going to be a game changer. So I feel pretty confident that Saquon's going to have a big impact on this. I talked about Goddard. I talked about the offensive line and what they need to do. And let's not forget, like, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith haven't been doing much because they haven't needed them to do much. It snowed in their second game. In the game against Green Bay, they kind of controlled it. Then it snowed in the next one, and then they dominated. So they haven't needed these wide receivers. But people forget they have 2 wide receiver ones in that room right now. So let's not forget about them. So I just think there's too much firepower. And, hey, hopefully Jake Elliott steps up and cashes Mr. Caleb's ticket.
All right, I got Kansas City. Couple points here. I agree with you, Reagan. I know the Chiefs had a better record in the regular season. I actually think the Eagles are a better team, and the stats would back that up. Total defense, Eagles, number 1, Kansas City 9. Pass defense, Eagles 1, Kansas City 18. Rush defense, Kansas City a little better, 8, Philly 10. Now that bodes well for them with Barkley, obviously, but still, as you mentioned, you're not going to be able to bottle up Barkley the entire game. Scoring defense, 2 top 5 teams. Eagles 2, KC 4. I did mention, though, the thing that really stood out to me was Kansas City's 26th and third down defense. Philadelphia's a top 10 in that category. And I think this game is going to come down to who's going to convert on those third downs. And I think in the second half, those fourth downs where you really need it. Total offense, Philadelphia 8th, Kansas City 16th. Pass, Kansas City 14th, Philadelphia 29th, right? So, I mean, one team's got Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I mean, they ran the ball a shit ton this year. Barkley has the most amount of touches from any running back through a season at this point since DeMarco Murray with the Cowboys. So, wow. I mean, it's been, I think, like 7 or 8 years, right? So, you're not surprised Philadelphia's 29th in pass, which is why I said Spags has got to turn Jalen Hurts into a passer, right? They got to try to beat you with his arm. Rushing defense, Philadelphia 2nd, Kansas City 22nd, Reagan. That's not good. No, I'm sorry. Offense. Sorry. 22nd rushing offense. That's not good. We touched on it. The running backs have to get going here. I don't know, dude. Against the Eagles defense, 10th in the league. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Scoring offense, Eagles 7th, KC 15th, right? Everything on paper says the Eagles were a better team. But you know what? When it comes down to it, what team is going to make the clutch plays? What teams do you trust more in the turnover battle? I trust Kansas City more in the turnover department. I trust Patrick Mahomes to not throw those interceptions more so than Jalen Hurts. I'm going to go with the Chiefs, man. We've seen them do it. I think we're going to see the first three-peat. I really am. I think it's another case where it's like, oh, they can't do it again. Like last year, people were saying the Niners were a better team. What happened, man? The Chiefs just get it done. They just find a way. And until they don't, I got to take them here. It sucks, man. I don't want to watch a Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl. This is honestly the worst Super Bowl you could have drawn up for me. Maybe Jets-Eagles might have been actually worse, but just because I had to listen to your dumbass all the time even more. But honestly, like, this is bad.
I know you're not talking to me, brah.
I got to go with the Chiefs. They've done it. They're going to make the clutch plays. Mahomes is going to pull some magic out of his ass in the fourth quarter yet again, and they're going to win a close one. And you know what? There's probably going to be a controversial call at the end that went the Chiefs' way. Accept it now. It's probably going to happen here. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs, the first 3-time defending champ in NFL history. They're going to get it done. Another heartbreaker for Philadelphia.
Brady won't let that happen. You know the refs like him more than they like Mahomes.
Yeah, Goodell said, anyone that thinks they're going for the Chiefs, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the NFL needs to save it. They're going to lose so much ratings if Kansas City wins this. They need to let the Dirty Birds win.
Could be a crazy PI. Crazy PI at the end, dude. Kelsey's going to get a call, and everyone's be like, fuck Kelce, fuck the Chiefs. They did it again.
I know. I honestly, like, we shouldn't even be surprised when it happens. I'm excited, man. I mean, it's only Monday. I can't wait to talk, more of the in-depth fun for all those casuals that will come in and, hop in on the action. I mean, this is one, if you're in a Super Bowl pool, I'd be excited because, both coaches obviously are very willing to go for two. And obviously without shaky Jake Elliott's been, so I think we might get some wonky scores again like last year. But it's exciting. I can't wait, man. I cannot wait.
That'd be cool if we saw a Scorigami in the Super Bowl.
It's definitely possible, brother. It's definitely possible. I'm a big Scorigami guy.
Or an octopus. Do you guys know what an octopus is?
Mm-hmm.
Happened last year. Happened last time.
The
Chiefs
same player
and
scores
the
the
Eagles.
touchdown and the 2-point conversion.
And it typically hurts. So that's what happened.
That makes sense. Back-to-back tush pushes. Like, damn, that was easy.
They usually don't tush push it. They won't tush push it from the 2 on a. Would they? Would they?
I don't know.
It wasn't a. Wait, you know what?
I can't recall if it was a tush push octopus.
I think he just ran.
I bet it was
in.
Devontae Smith that had it, to be honest.
No, it was Hurts. Fuck. Am I stupid to say if there was a flag on a 2-point, they move it up another yard or no?
Yes, idiot.
Yes.
Why would you think that? No, you're right. You're right.
I think I think that's what may have happened, and then they pushed it.
Probably. I mean, they usually, that and that's what I'm saying. Anytime that there is a penalty, Sirianni will bring the offense back on, move it up to the 1-yard line, and push it in. So, get it or not get it, that changes it to 6 or 8, and then the score gets wonky from there. So that's what I'm saying. And, Kansas City's always got some tricks up their sleeves. So I'm thinking a weird score again like last year.
I could tell you it was Jalen Hurts. Okay. And the odds were plus 1,400 for plus 98% of bets and 98% of wagers were on yes, there would be an octopus that year.
Well, yeah. Who the fuck is betting on like minus 2,000 now? Like, what the hell is the point of that?
Yeah, that's. Oh, let me just juice up my parlay a little bit. There won't be an octopus.
Sounds so dumb.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. All right. Anything you would like to add, Reagan, before we sign off for the night?
We'll see you guys on Thursday. We're going to pass around that question link, so please submit them for the special edition of Drak.
We got to ask Drak what he likes for the Super Bowl on Thursday, baby, because he's hosting the betting podcast. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.